tell you about one of my favorite loans I've ever done. It was for a family member. Now, she was actually going to be purchasing a home from an ex-boyfriend's mother. The home was not listed on the market, so we're doing an off-market purchase transaction. I got one of my realtors involved to help draw up a purchase contract, and everything was going pretty good. Working with less than perfect credit, so we were actually doing a manual USDA underwrite. Okay, my underwriting ratio is doing a manual underwrite. Topped out at about, I think, 43% with the lender I was working at. So debt ratios had to be a little bit tighter than the 50% that they normally allow. Going through process, we found out that the city had thrown a $9,000 tax assessment on the property. So the property taxes were going to go up quite a bit because they had done some asphalt and street work on the home, or going into the home. So ultimately that was being passed down to the homeowner, and now it was going to be passed on to my client. Now the $9,000 was going to be paid over 5 years. It is something that annually they did have to put that into my debt ratio, which was really tight to begin with. So I always tell people loans become a pain in the butt when information changes. So I got hit with a different tax bill than I was expecting. We actually worked it out where we were able to increase our purchase price, going back to the realtor, going back to the seller, and negotiating, and we increased his purchase price to actually cover $9,000 in seller paid closing costs. Okay, so we increased the purchase agreement $10,000. We gave back $10,000 to my buyer in closing costs to cover pretty much that tax assessment. So we paid the city in full. My property tax bill was back down. My client had a cheaper mortgage payment because the escrow payment didn't have that assessment included in it anymore. And my debt ratio was back in a way where I could get the loan done. So all parties ended up very happy. We were able to complete the purchase closing. My family member was able to obtain the property just fine. And all that street stuff and all that ended up getting paid for as part of the transaction to get it done. So it was a very, very rewarding experience. I was happy to help her get into a home, her very first home for the first time, on a very, very good USDA loan, 100% financing, so she didn't have to put any money down on it either. So it was a very, very happy ending through kind of a tricky process with the city putting an assessment out there.